Hello, my dear friends. Today, I'm going to share something that can truly change your life. Everyday habits to improve your English. Many people struggle with learning English, not because they lack intelligence or dedication, but because they don't integrate English into their daily routines. If you've ever found yourself saying, I understand English, but I can't speak fluently, or I always forget words when I try to talk, then this story is for you. Meet Emma Carter, a 24-year-old from New York, United States. Emma has always been passionate about improving her English, but like many others, she faced difficulties in speaking fluently. She understood grammar, she could read well, but when it came to speaking, she hesitated. Her mind would go blank, and she would struggle to find the right words. One day, she decided to change her approach. Instead of treating English like a subject to study, she made it a part of her life. And that's when everything changed. In this story, I'll take you through Emma's journey, her daily habits, and how she transformed her English skills step by step. These habits are not complicated. In fact, they are small, easy things you can do every day. If you follow them consistently, just like Emma, you will see a huge improvement in your fluency, confidence, and overall communication skills. 1. Thinking in English. Emma realized that one of the biggest problems she faced was translating words in her mind. She would think in her native language first, and then try to convert the sentence into English, which made her speech slow and unnatural. So, she made a simple but powerful change. She started thinking in English. Every morning when she woke up, she would describe her day in English in her mind. For example, today I will go to work at 9 a.m. I need to prepare for a meeting. I should make breakfast. Maybe I will have eggs and toast. At first, it felt strange, but with time, it became natural. The more she thought in English, the easier it became to form sentences quickly when speaking. 2. Speaking out loud every day. Another habit that helped Emma improve was speaking out loud. She didn't wait for someone to talk to her in English. She talked to herself. Whenever she was alone, she would describe what she was doing. I'm making coffee. This book looks interesting. It's a beautiful day outside. She also started narrating her actions like, now, I'm cutting vegetables for dinner. I need to check my emails after this. Speaking aloud helped her practice pronunciation, improve fluency, and build confidence. 3. Listening to English every day, Emma knew that listening was just as important as speaking. To improve her English, she made a habit of listening to English every day. She listened to podcasts while commuting. Some of her favorites were The English We Speak and BBC Learning English. She watched YouTube videos about topics she enjoyed, such as travel and personal development. She switched her TV shows and movies to English. She watched with subtitles at first, and later without them. This constant exposure to spoken English helped her understand native speakers better and pick up new phrases naturally. 4. Reading something in English daily to expand her vocabulary. Emma made it a habit to read in English every day. But instead of forcing herself to read textbooks, she chose things that interested her. Articles on websites like BBC News and Medium novels, and short stories, social media posts from English speakers. She kept a small notebook where she wrote down new words and phrases. Instead of just memorizing them, She tried to use them in her daily conversations. 5. Writing every day. Emma knew that writing was another powerful way to improve English. So, she started journaling in English every night. She wrote about her day. Today was a busy day. I had a lot of meetings, but I also learned something new. She wrote short stories and personal thoughts. Sometimes she even texted herself on her phone in English. Writing helped her organize her thoughts and practice using correct sentence structures. 6. Having English conversations. At first, Emma was shy to speak with others, but she knew that real conversations were necessary to become fluent. So, she started looking for speaking opportunities. She joined online English speaking groups. She used language exchange apps to practice with native speakers. She found a conversation partner and scheduled weekly calls. With time, her confidence grew, and speaking English felt easier and more natural. 7. Learning English through fun activities. Emma didn't just study English. She made learning fun. She played word games like Scrabble and crossword puzzles, wrote song lyrics in English, followed English-speaking influencers on Instagram and TikTok. Because she enjoyed these activities, she practiced without feeling like she was studying. 8. Correcting mistakes without fear. One of the biggest mindset shifts Emma had was accepting mistakes. Before, she was scared of making errors, so she avoided speaking. But she realized that mistakes are a part of learning. Instead of feeling embarrassed, she started seeing mistakes as opportunities. If she mispronounced a word, she repeated it correctly. If someone corrected her grammar, she thanked them and remembered the right way. This change in mindset made her more relaxed and confident when speaking. 9. Surrounding herself with English. Emma created an English-speaking environment around her. She changed her phone language to English. She started thinking of grocery lists in English. She even spoke to her pet in English. By surrounding herself with the language, she improved naturally without much effort. 10. Being consistent. Most importantly, Emma stayed consistent. She didn't try to do everything in one day. She focused on small improvements every day. After a few months, she noticed she could think in English naturally. She felt more confident speaking. She didn't struggle to find words. Her English was improving because she practiced every single day. Emma Carter had always believed that language was the bridge connecting hearts, minds, and cultures. Growing up in a lively suburb of the United States, she quickly discovered that mastering English wasn't simply about grammar and vocabulary. It was a journey of self-discovery, personal expression, and an essential tool for building relationships in a diverse society. The topic of everyday habits to improve your English fascinated her from a young age, and as she embarked on a journey of continuous improvement, every day unfolded as a lesson in language, life, and the beauty of persistence. From the moment the sun peeked over the horizon, Emma's day was a testament to the power of daily habits. She started each morning by reading aloud from a carefully chosen book on her bedside table. For Emma, this wasn't just an exercise in pronunciation. It was a ritual that connected her to the rhythm and melody of the language. As she read, she allowed each word to roll off her tongue, savoring the cadence and exploring the subtle emotions each sentence evoked. This morning ritual not only set a positive tone for the day, but also reintroduced her to new words and phrases that enriched her vocabulary. In her bustling neighborhood, where neighbors greeted each other with smiles and friendly chatter, Emma learned that language is as much about listening as it is about speaking. On her way to the local coffee shop, a charming place adorned with vintage posters and the aroma of freshly ground beans, she listened intently to the conversations around her. Whether it was the animated dialogue between a barista and a regular customer, or the soft murmur of background chatter, Emma captured the natural flow of everyday English. She later made a habit of jotting down interesting expressions in her well-worn notebook, a small treasure trove of colloquial phrases and idioms that she would review each evening. At the coffee shop, Emma met her friend Lucas Reynolds, a thoughtful and articulate young man with a passion for literature and debate. Lucas shared her belief that language improvement wasn't an isolated study, but a dynamic exchange of ideas. Over steaming cups of coffee, they discussed everything from current events to classic novels, each conversation a mini seminar in linguistic finesse. Lucas introduced Emma to podcasts and audiobooks that featured engaging storytelling and robust discussions on contemporary issues. Their dialogues were not just about perfecting pronunciation or grammar. They were a delightful exploration of ideas that challenged each other to think deeply and articulate their thoughts clearly. In the United States, where cultural diversity was woven into the fabric of daily life, Emma found endless opportunities to practice her English. She enrolled in a community theater group where she assumed roles that pushed her to speak in different accents and adopt varied emotional intonations. In the rehearsal room, amid the hum of backstage preparations and the quiet intensity of fellow actors, Emma learned the importance of body language and vocal expression. Each role she played taught her that improving English was not solely about words, but about conveying emotions and creating connections with an audience. At home, Emma's dedication continued unabated. Every evening, she sat at her desk under the soft glow of a desk lamp, meticulously writing in her journal. This wasn't just a record of her day. It was a canvas on which she practiced the art of storytelling. Emma described her experiences, feelings, and even the nuances of the conversations she had throughout the day. By writing regularly, she discovered the power of reflection. It allowed her to analyze the use of language critically, learn from her mistakes, and experiment with new stylistic techniques. The process of journaling transformed her understanding of English from a subject she studied to an intimate part of who she was. Her commitment to self-improvement extended into the digital realm as well. Every week, Emma joined online discussion groups and participated in language exchange forums where she communicated with native speakers from all over the world. Through these interactions, she encountered slang, regional accents, and modern linguistic trends that textbooks often overlooked. Emma found that engaging in online debates and collaborative projects not only honed her writing skills, but also broadened her cultural understanding. In these virtual spaces, she realized that every conversation was an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow. One of Emma's most cherished habits was her regular habit of watching films and television shows in English, with subtitles at first, and then without them as her confidence grew. Sitting in her cozy living room, She immersed herself in the stories on screen, carefully listening to the dialogue and mimicking the expressions and inflections of her favorite characters. This immersive method allowed her to internalize the natural rhythm and colloquial nuances of the language. Over time, these habits helped Emma appreciate the diversity of accents and dialects within the United States and beyond, reinforcing her belief that language is as dynamic and varied as the people who speak it. Emma's approach to improving her English wasn't confined to solitary study sessions or digital interactions. It was woven into the tapestry of her social life. Her weekends were often spent at local events and cultural festivals where she engaged with performers, artists, and community leaders. At a poetry reading one crisp autumn evening, Emma listened in rapt attention as a renowned poet, Rachel Martinez, recited verses that captured the essence of American life. The poet's eloquence and command over language inspired Emma to experiment with her own creative expressions. Later, during a casual conversation after the event, Emma asked Rachel for advice on incorporating poetic devices into everyday speech. Rachel's response was warm and insightful. Every word has a rhythm, every sentence a beat. Listen to your inner music and let your words dance. That moment solidified Emma's understanding that improving her English was not just about following rules, but about finding joy and creativity in every interaction. The journey wasn't without its challenges. There were days when Emma felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of new vocabulary, complex grammar structures, and the pressure to perform perfectly in every conversation. On such days, she reminded herself that learning a language was a marathon, not a sprint. She turned to mindfulness practices, another habit she had recently embraced, to find balance. Every evening before bed, Emma spent a few minutes meditating, focusing on her breath and releasing the tension of the day. This practice not only calmed her mind, but also allowed her to process the language lessons of the day with clarity and patience. As time passed, Emma began to notice remarkable improvements. Her ability to express herself became more fluid, her vocabulary richer, and her confidence in speaking English grew steadily. The community around her recognized her progress, and she was often invited to speak at local gatherings, community centers, and even educational workshops. During one memorable event, Emma was introduced by the event organizer, Michael Thompson, as someone who had turned everyday habits into a powerful tool for self-improvement. Emma Carter is a shining example of how dedication and passion can transform one's command of the English language, Michael said to an attentive audience. That public recognition further fueled Emma's drive to continue her journey and to share her methods with others. Her story soon began to ripple through her community. Friends and neighbors, inspired by her progress, started adopting some of her habits. A close friend, Jessica Lee, began joining Emma at the local library, where they would explore sections on literature, history, and even science, discussing each book's impact on their understanding of the world. Another friend, David Ramirez, a high school teacher, invited Emma to lead a weekly discussion group at his school. Here, Emma combined her passion for language with practical advice, encouraging students to integrate English into every aspect of their daily lives, from casual conversations to academic writing. In these interactions, Emma often emphasized a few core habits that she believed were key to mastering English. Consistent reading. Emma stressed that reading a variety of materials, from novels and newspapers to poetry and essays, provided a well rounded exposure to different writing styles and vocabularies. She explained that even a single page a day could accumulate into significant progress over time. Active listening. Whether it was through conversations with friends, podcasts, or films, Emma highlighted the importance of listening actively. She recommended that learners pay attention to the nuances of pronunciation, tone, and inflection, and even mimic these aspects to improve their own speech. Daily journaling. For Emma, writing was not only a method of self expression, but also a powerful tool for reflection. By documenting her daily experiences, she was able to track her progress, identify common errors, and experiment with new words and sentence structures in a low pressure environment. Engagement in conversations. Emma believed that practical application was crucial. She made it a point to participate in discussions, ask questions, and not shy away from making mistakes. Every conversation was a learning opportunity, a chance to receive immediate feedback and adjust accordingly. Cultural immersion. Understanding the cultural context behind language use was another habit Emma nurtured. She immersed herself in American culture through music, art, festivals, and community events. This approach helped her understand idiomatic expressions and cultural references that are often absent in textbooks. One crisp Saturday morning, Emma decided to organize a language day in her community park. The event was designed to bring together people from all walks of life to celebrate the English language through games, storytelling, poetry slams, and even a small book exchange. Families, students, and elders gathered under the canopy of sprawling oak trees, each person contributing to an atmosphere of joyful learning and communal exchange. Emma's infectious enthusiasm and detailed explanations about the importance of everyday habits in mastering English were met with nods of agreement and applause. It was a day that encapsulated the essence of her journey, a journey that was as much about personal growth as it was about strengthening community bonds. In the vibrant hum of that language day, as children recited tongue twisters and elderly storytellers shared tales of yesteryears, Emma realized that the real magic of language was its ability to evolve and adapt with each person's unique experience. The myriad accents, dialects, and colloquialisms that peppered the conversations around her were not errors to be corrected, but rather unique expressions of identity and culture. She took a moment to reflect on her own growth, recalling how each habit, each careful reading, each mindful conversation, each deliberate moment of reflection had contributed to a transformation that was visible not only in her speech, but also in the way she connected with others. Emma's commitment to these everyday practices transformed her understanding of English from a static subject to a living, breathing art form. She began to see every day as an opportunity to learn something new. Whether it was a freshly coined slang term from a conversation at a local diner, or an elegant phrase from an old novel rediscovered in a dusty corner of the public library. This fluid approach helped her overcome the rigidity of traditional language learning methods and replaced it with a dynamic, self-sustaining cycle of curiosity and creativity. In time, Emma's reputation as a dedicated language learner spread beyond her immediate community. Invitations to speak at local schools, libraries, and even cultural symposiums flowed in, and she embraced these opportunities with the same fervor that had fueled her personal journey. Each new engagement was a chance to share her insights, encourage others to adopt small, daily habits, and demonstrate that mastery of English was achievable through consistent practice and a genuine love for the language. One particularly memorable event took place at a regional educational conference in a grand auditorium in downtown Philadelphia. Emma, invited as a guest speaker, stood confidently before an audience of educators, students, and language enthusiasts. With a warm smile, she recounted her story, detailing her journey from a hesitant speaker to someone who now found joy in the intricacies of English. Her talk emphasized that language improvement wasn't about rote memorization or strict adherence to rules. It was about embracing the journey of learning through everyday experiences. Every word you speak, every page you read, every conversation you engage in is a step forward in your journey of mastering this beautiful language, Emma told the captivated audience. Her speech resonated deeply, sparking lively discussions and inspiring many to re examine their own approaches to language learning. As Emma Carter's story unfolded across the United States, her everyday habits evolved into a philosophy that transcended language learning. She began to integrate mindfulness, creativity, and community engagement into every facet of her life. Emma's daily routines, once seen as mere exercises in self improvement, now represented a holistic approach to living, a recognition that language was intertwined with every human experience. Her story became a beacon for anyone who wished to improve their English, reminding them that progress was built on the small, consistent actions taken day after day. In the quieter moments of the night, when the world outside had settled into a gentle hush and the city lights twinkled in the distance, Emma often sat by her window with a cup of chamomile tea. She would gaze at the starry sky and reflect on the day's lessons. It was in these serene moments that she realized the true power of her habits. Not only had they improved her English, but they had also instilled in her a sense of discipline, self-awareness, and a deep appreciation for the beauty of language in all its forms. Emma's journey was never marked by dramatic transformations or sudden epiphanies. Rather, it was a gradual, steady evolution, a testament to the power of everyday habits. Whether it was the simple act of reading a poem in the morning or engaging in a heartfelt conversation with a stranger, every habit contributed to the mosaic of her learning experience. She learned that mistakes were not failures, but stepping stones to improvement, and that every interaction, no matter how mundane, held the potential to enrich her understanding of English. The essence of Emma Carter's story lies in its message. Improvement is not reserved for grand gestures or intensive study sessions. It is found in the quiet, persistent efforts of each day. Her life, interwoven with a myriad of small, thoughtful practices, became a living example of how the seemingly ordinary can become extraordinary when approached with passion and purpose. Emma Carter's journey didn't end with simply adopting a few new habits. It evolved into a complete transformation of how she lived, thought, and communicated. Over time, her daily routine grew richer, more intricate, and more deeply interwoven with the English language. Each day presented new opportunities to learn, practice, and refine her skills, and Emma embraced every single one of them with enthusiasm and determination. In the early days, Emma would wake up and sit by her window with a cup of coffee, letting the soft morning light remind her that every new day was a chance to grow. She had made it her mission to think in English from the moment she opened her eyes. As the gentle hum of the city filled the air outside her New York apartment, she would silently describe the scenes she observed: the chirping of birds on the fire escape, the bustling sounds of early commuters on the street below, and translate these simple observations into English. This quiet morning ritual was not just a way to wake her mind up, but a subtle reminder that the language was as alive and vibrant as the city itself. Throughout the day, Emma maintained a habit of narrating her activities out loud. While preparing breakfast in her small, sunlit kitchen, she would describe every step. "I'm whisking the eggs, and soon they will be fluffy and delicious. I'm cutting fresh vegetables for a healthy side dish." By vocalizing her thoughts, she gradually became more comfortable with her own voice in English. Even on days when she was particularly tired, she forced herself to speak at least a few sentences. This self-talk became her constant companion, an ever-present practice that made the language feel less foreign and more like a trusted friend. Emma's dedication extended far beyond her private moments. Determined to immerse herself fully in the language, she began seeking every possible opportunity to listen to English. During her daily commute on the subway, she plugged in her headphones and listened to English podcasts that ranged from news and storytelling to interviews with experts in various fields. These podcasts not only improved her listening skills, but also introduced her to a wide range of accents, dialects, and cultural nuances. At times, while sitting quietly among the hum of city sounds, she would jot down interesting phrases in a little leather-bound notebook, preserving every new idiom and expression she encountered. Later in the day, when Emma found a quiet moment in her favorite corner of a local coffee shop, she would dive into a book or an online article. The texts varied from classic novels by renowned American authors to contemporary essays and blog posts written by influencers in the United States. Each reading session was an adventure in vocabulary and comprehension, where every unfamiliar word was a stepping stone to greater mastery. Emma was meticulous about recording these words along with their meanings and usage examples. She sometimes spent hours later in the evening trying to construct sentences that naturally incorporated these new terms, turning her notebook into both a dictionary and a diary of her progress. One of the most transformative practices in Emma's life was writing. Every night, before she went to sleep, she would open her journal and write about her day in English. What began as simple descriptions soon turned into reflective narratives, where she explored her emotions, ambitions, and challenges. Through writing, she learned to articulate her thoughts more clearly, and gradually, her writing evolved to include intricate details, vivid descriptions, and even humor. The process of reviewing her past entries allowed her to see how much she had grown. Words that once felt foreign became part of her personal lexicon, and complex sentences started to form naturally. The journal was not just a tool for practice, It was a mirror reflecting her transformation from a hesitant speaker into a confident communicator. Despite her progress, there were days when Emma faced challenges. At times, she would participate in English conversations on video calls with her language exchange partner, a friendly person she met through an online forum dedicated to improving language skills. Initially, these conversations were nerve-wracking. The fear of mispronouncing a word or misunderstanding a phrase often loomed over her. However, her partner was patient and supportive, always encouraging her to express herself without worrying too much about perfection. These interactions were invaluable. They were moments when Emma could test her skills in real time, receive constructive feedback, and learn from her mistakes. Each conversation left her with new insights into common pitfalls and fresh ideas for how to approach a tricky pronunciation or a confusing grammar rule. Emma also discovered that learning English could be a deeply social experience. She started attending local meetups and community events where English was the primary medium of conversation. Whether it was a book club discussing contemporary American literature or a casual game night with word puzzles and trivia, Emma found that these gatherings were both fun and educational. The informal setting allowed her to experiment with slang, idiomatic expressions, and even jokes that didn't always make sense when translated literally from her native language. Through these events, she not only improved her language skills, but also forged genuine friendships, sharing laughs and stories that transcended language barriers. One particularly memorable day was when Emma attended a community storytelling event in a park near her apartment. Under the sprawling branches of a century-old oak tree, several speakers took turns narrating personal anecdotes and local legends in English. Inspired by the natural flow of these stories, Emma mustered the courage to share one of her own experiences. As she recounted a funny mishap from her childhood, a tale involving a misplaced set of keys, a surprising run-in with a neighborhood dog, and the gentle teasing of her family, she realized that every story, no matter how trivial it seemed, was an opportunity to practice English in a meaningful way. The warm applause and encouraging smiles of the audience filled her with a sense of accomplishment, reinforcing the idea that the true measure of learning a language lay in its power to connect people. Over the months, Emma's routine became a finely tuned symphony of language practice. Every activity, whether it was the mundane act of grocery shopping or the excitement of planning a weekend outing, was transformed into a mini English lesson. She started using modern technology to further integrate the language into her daily life. Emma set her smartphone's voice assistant to English, adjusted the language settings on her favorite apps, and even subscribed to an English of the Day newsletter that delivered a new word or phrase every morning. These small yet significant changes ensured that she was constantly surrounded by English, making the language an inseparable part of her existence. Her efforts began to show tangible results. Friends and colleagues noticed that Emma's speech was smoother, her vocabulary richer, and her confidence in expressing complex ideas significantly improved. She no longer hesitated to volunteer for presentations at work, and her emails started reflecting a more natural, conversational tone that resonated with her clients and partners. The transformation was not merely about learning a language, it was about embracing a mindset of continuous improvement and self-expression. Of course, the journey was not without setbacks. There were days when fatigue or stress made it difficult for Emma to muster the enthusiasm needed for her daily practice. In those moments, she reminded herself that progress was not linear and that every small effort contributed to a larger goal. On particularly challenging days, she would revisit her early journal entries, reading the simple sentences and carefully noting how far she had come. This self reflection was both humbling and motivating, a gentle reminder that every word spoken, every sentence written, and every conversation held was a victory in itself. One evening, after a particularly long day filled with meetings and deadlines, Emma found herself back in her favorite reading nook with a book of short stories by a celebrated American author. As she immersed herself in the narrative, she realized that her ability to understand complex literary expressions had greatly improved. The metaphors, the subtle humor, the rhythmic flow of the prose, all of it spoke to her in ways that once would have required much effort to decode. With each page, she felt a surge of pride and gratitude for the hours she had spent practicing, listening, and engaging with the language. It was a personal triumph that reinforced her belief in the power of persistence. As Emma's proficiency grew, she began exploring more specialized areas of English. She developed an interest in American idioms and expressions that were deeply rooted in cultural history. Curious about phrases like kick the bucket or barking up the wrong tree, she embarked on a quest to understand their origins and usage. This exploration not only expanded her vocabulary, but also gave her a glimpse into the cultural tapestry of the United States. She spent time researching, watching documentaries, and even asking native speakers about the stories behind these idioms. Each discovery added a new layer to her understanding, making the language feel more like an art form than a set of rigid rules. One afternoon, while sipping iced coffee at a trendy cafe in downtown Manhattan, Emma struck up a conversation with a local artist. The discussion quickly turned to the subject of language and creativity. The artist explained how language was an evolving canvas, one that could capture emotions, challenge perceptions, and even spark revolutions. Inspired by this perspective, Emma began to experiment with creative writing. She wrote poems, composed short narratives, and even dabbled in writing a screenplay that intertwined her own experiences with elements of magic realism. The creative process allowed her to play with words in novel ways, crafting sentences that danced with rhythm and meaning. It was during these creative sessions that Emma discovered the joy of language in its purest form, a form that was as fluid and dynamic as life itself. Even her approach to learning grammar transformed over time. In the beginning, strict adherence to rules had felt like a barrier rather than a tool. Emma used to labor over grammar exercises and corrected her sentences repeatedly, worried that any error might undo her progress. However, with growing confidence, she learned to embrace the imperfections inherent in language learning. She started to see grammar as a flexible guide rather than a strict law, allowing her more creative freedom in both speech and writing. This new mindset not only reduced her anxiety, but also opened up avenues for experimentation and self-expression. Every grammatical mistake was now viewed as an opportunity to learn and grow, a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. The influence of technology on Emma's learning journey was profound. She discovered an array of online platforms dedicated to language learning, interactive exercises, virtual classrooms, and even social media groups where enthusiasts shared tips, resources, and encouragement. Emma participated in online challenges where she had to post a daily short story or a video clip explaining a word or phrase she had learned. These platforms provided immediate feedback, and the sense of community was immensely motivating. She even began maintaining a blog where she documented her progress, shared her struggles, and celebrated her successes. Through the blog, Emma connected with thousands of other learners and native speakers, forging friendships and finding mentors who helped her navigate the complexities of the language. The digital space, once just a tool for communication, had now become a dynamic environment for learning and growth. In moments of introspection, Emma realized that her journey to master English was as much about self-discovery as it was about language acquisition. Every habit, every conversation, every written word was a reflection of her evolving identity. She found that as her language skills improved, so did her ability to express her innermost thoughts and dreams. She began to articulate ideas that had long been confined to the recesses of her mind, ideas that spoke of ambition, love, creativity, and resilience. This new fluency in expression allowed her to navigate both professional and personal realms with a clarity that had once seemed unattainable. The impact of these changes extended beyond her immediate social circle. At work, Emma's presentations became more engaging and persuasive, infused with a natural cadence and a personal touch that captivated her audience. Colleagues started seeking her advice not only on projects, but also on how to communicate more effectively. Emma soon found herself mentoring others, sharing the habits that had transformed her own life. She organized informal discussion groups where she would encourage her peers to talk about their challenges and exchange tips on improving their English. These sessions were filled with laughter, mutual respect, and a collective sense of progress. It was as if the very act of sharing her journey had rekindled the passion for learning in others. Emma's personal life also blossomed in unexpected ways. The confidence she gained through her daily English practice spilled over into other aspects of her life. She became more adventurous, exploring new hobbies like photography, which allowed her to capture the vibrant essence of New York City. Every photograph was accompanied by a short description in English that she later shared on her blog, merging visual art with linguistic expression. These small acts of creativity not only enriched her portfolio, but also helped her see the interconnectedness of language, art, and emotion. In these moments, Emma discovered that English was not just a means of communication, it was a bridge connecting her to a world of ideas, experiences, and endless possibilities. There were also quieter moments of solitude when Emma would retreat into the calm of her own thoughts. During long walks in Central Park, surrounded by the rustling of leaves and the distant chatter of other walkers, she would silently recite poems or reflect on the day's experiences in English. These reflective walks became a meditative practice, reinforcing her belief that language was not just something to be learned, but something to be lived. In these serene moments, the rhythmic cadence of her footsteps blended with the gentle flow of her inner monologue, creating a symphony of words that celebrated life in all its complexity. As the months turned into years, Emma's commitment to her everyday habits culminated in a profound transformation. What started as a series of simple, isolated practices had woven itself into the very fabric of her existence. English was no longer an academic subject or a foreign challenge. It had become an essential part of her identity. Whether she was engaged in a lively debate at a community center, crafting an evocative narrative on her blog, or simply whispering words to herself as she drifted off to sleep, Emma had embraced the language fully, and in doing so, she had unlocked new dimensions of self-expression and creativity. Her journey was a testament to the idea that language learning is not a destination, but a lifelong pursuit. Every day brought new challenges and new rewards, and with each passing moment, Emma's love for English deepened. She learned that the real beauty of language lay in its imperfections, its capacity to evolve, and its power to connect disparate parts of the human experience. Emma's story, rooted in everyday habits and nurtured by persistence and passion, stands as a living example for anyone seeking to improve their English. It shows that with a little dedication and a lot of heart, every day can become an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to transform one's world. In the quiet hours of the night, as Emma closed her journal and turned off the light, she often reflected on the journey that had brought her so far. Each habit, each conversation, each moment of self-doubt followed by triumph had contributed to the mosaic of her new identity. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the language itself, but for the process of learning that had taught her patience, resilience, and the joy of discovery. The lessons she had learned along the way were not confined to vocabulary or grammar. They were lessons about life, about embracing change, and about finding beauty in every little moment. Emma's experience continues to inspire those around her. Her story is shared in language classes, community centers, and online forums where learners from across the United States look to her example for guidance. Her daily routines, from early morning self-talk to late-night journaling, are often discussed in language meetups, serving as a blueprint for success. Many of her friends now say that watching Emma transform her habits has given them the courage to try new methods, to take risks in conversation, and to view mistakes as stepping stones rather than setbacks. Looking ahead, Emma envisions a future where her journey becomes a foundation for helping others. She dreams of one day organizing workshops where she can share practical strategies for integrating English into everyday life, turning the process into an engaging, community-driven experience. In these workshops, she plans to explore not only the mechanics of language, but also the creative, personal, and emotional dimensions that make learning English a truly enriching experience. Her vision is to build a community where everyone, regardless of their background or native tongue, can feel empowered to express themselves and connect with the world through language. And so, as each new day dawns over the bustling streets of New York, Emma Carter wakes up with a renewed sense of purpose. With every step, every word, every sentence crafted with care, she proves that the journey to mastering English is one of both personal and collective triumph. Her story, a story of daily habits, continuous growth, and unwavering determination, reminds us that the key to learning is not in grand gestures, but in the consistent, small actions that, over time, transform our lives. Emma's journey didn't stop at just building the basic habits. She continued to explore new methods, challenge herself in unexpected ways, and expand her comfort zone in English. Over time, every day became a living classroom, and every moment was an opportunity to grow. Every morning, Emma Carter began her day with an upbeat routine that set the tone for everything that followed. As the first rays of sunlight filtered into her New York apartment, she reached for her favorite mug and poured a hot cup of coffee. While the aroma filled the room, she would mentally recite a short passage from an English poem or a motivational quote she'd written the night before in her journal. This quiet moment not only helped her start the day with positive energy, but also reinforced her habit of thinking in English. Each morning, as she sipped her coffee, she would speak aloud the goals for her day, whether it was preparing for a big presentation or simply running errands, ensuring that every thought was formed in English right from the start. Throughout her day, Emma integrated English into every activity. In the bustling streets of New York, while waiting for the subway at 42nd Street, she observed the diverse crowd and mentally narrated snippets of conversation she might have if she were meeting someone new. This spontaneous commentary wasn't always perfect, but it allowed her to practice constructing sentences quickly. Later that day, as she walked through a local park, she greeted neighbors, described the lovely weather, and even offered compliments to strangers, all in English. These small interactions built her confidence and demonstrated that language could be as natural as a smile. One of the most transformative practices for Emma was her dedicated time for listening. Each day, while commuting from her apartment in Manhattan to her office, she tuned in to podcasts like The English We Speak and All Ears English. These sessions became a part of her routine, providing her with new idioms, cultural insights, and authentic conversational patterns. The steady influx of varied accents and expressions sharpened her listening skills, and she began to notice subtle differences in pronunciation and intonation that she had never caught before. Even during lunch breaks, Emma would watch short videos on topics ranging from technology trends to travel adventures, absorbing information while reinforcing her comprehension skills. In the afternoons, Emma embraced the joy of reading as another cornerstone of her learning process. Rather than confining herself to textbooks, she chose materials that ignited her interest. On her tablet, she scrolled through articles on BBC News, catching up on global events with an American perspective, while also reading in-depth features on culture and science. She subscribed to online magazines and even followed several influential English bloggers. Whenever she encountered an unfamiliar word or phrase, she paused, looked it up, and then scribbled it down in her trusty vocabulary notebook. This habit not only enriched her vocabulary, but also gave her context on how words and phrases were used in everyday situations. Writing, too, became a sacred ritual in Emma's quest for fluency. Every evening, after returning home from a long day in the concrete jungle, she would sit at her desk and write a detailed journal entry in English. Some nights were reflective, detailing the challenges and small victories of the day, while others were creative explorations, where she penned short stories inspired by the vibrant life around her. Sometimes she even wrote letters to her future self, imagining the possibilities that lay ahead if she kept nurturing her language skills. Over weeks and months, these writings not only served as a record of her progress, but also as a personal archive of her thoughts, dreams, and experiences expressed in a language that once felt foreign. Emma's commitment to practicing English wasn't limited to solitary efforts. Recognizing that communication is inherently social, she actively sought opportunities for conversation. After hearing about a local meetup group called English Connect, she decided to join. Every Saturday afternoon, a diverse group of learners and native speakers gathered in a quiet corner of a popular cafe near Central Park. Here, she met people like Michael, a friendly graphic designer from Los Angeles who had moved to New York for work, and Sarah, a literature enthusiast from Chicago who shared Emma's passion for creative writing. These gatherings became a lively arena where ideas were exchanged, opinions were debated, and every conversation was a chance to polish her speaking skills. In these group sessions, no conversation was too small to be significant. They discussed everything from the latest American films and books to current events in the United States. Michael would often share humorous anecdotes from his experiences in different cities, while Sarah introduced new words and literary expressions that enriched the discussions. In one memorable session, the group embarked on an impromptu role-playing game where each person had to assume a character from a popular novel, forcing them to improvise dialogue and think on their feet in English. The playful challenge not only brought laughter, but also highlighted the practical application of everyday vocabulary and expressions. Emma found that these interactive experiences dramatically boosted her self-assurance and helped her internalize the language in a relaxed, engaging atmosphere. Emma also discovered that learning could be infused with fun through technology. She downloaded several language learning apps that turned vocabulary drills into interactive games. Each time she played, she challenged herself to beat her previous scores, while also unlocking new levels of difficulty. These apps often included features that simulated real-life conversations, providing her with instant feedback on her pronunciation and grammar. Sometimes she would compete with her friends from the English Connect group, sparking a friendly rivalry that kept her motivated to practice more consistently. This blend of technology and learning transformed what could have been monotonous drills into an engaging, competitive, and enjoyable pastime. In addition to technology, music played a profound role in Emma's learning process. One evening, while browsing through a streaming platform, she stumbled upon a playlist titled English Classics. Intrigued, she listened to songs by iconic American artists and found that music had a way of embedding language in her mind. The rhythms, rhymes, and repetitive choruses made it easier for her to remember new words and phrases. She began singing along, and over time, her pronunciation improved as she mimicked the nuances of each singer's style. Music became a delightful form of practice that she looked forward to after a long day of work. Sometimes, Emma challenged herself with a unique exercise. She recorded short monologues on her smartphone. She would pick a topic at random, be it her opinion on a recent news story, a description of her favorite local restaurant in New York, or a reflection on a book she had just read, and record herself speaking for a few minutes. Afterward, she listened to the recordings, identifying areas where she hesitated or mispronounced words. This self-assessment allowed her to pinpoint specific areas for improvement. Gradually, she noticed that her speech became smoother and her vocabulary more diverse. The recordings served as both a motivational tool and a practical measure of her progress. A key turning point in Emma's journey was the realization that she could make mistakes without the fear of judgment. Early on, she had been hesitant to speak in public or engage in conversations with native speakers due to a fear of making errors. However, as she continued to practice daily, she began to view every mistake as a stepping stone rather than a setback. One day, during a conversation with a new friend at the cafe, she misspoke a common phrase. Instead of dwelling on it, she laughed it off, corrected herself, and continued with the conversation. That moment of self-forgiveness proved to be liberating. It allowed her to relax and enjoy the process, knowing that each misstep was simply a part of her learning curve. With this mindset, Emma gradually shed the anxiety that once held her back, embracing every opportunity to speak, no matter how imperfectly. Over time, her daily routine evolved into a comprehensive lifestyle. Emma arranged her schedule so that every hour contained a small moment dedicated to English. Whether it was labeling household items in English, translating her grocery list, or even setting her phone and computer to the language, every part of her day was a constant reminder of her commitment. Her apartment transformed into an immersive environment, a living, breathing canvas where the language of her new life was splashed on the walls in posters, sticky notes, and inspirational quotes. Family and friends also joined in on her journey. Emma's brother, Daniel, who lived in the United States, started incorporating English in their weekend video calls. They discussed everything from childhood memories to future dreams, switching effortlessly between English and their native language. These heartfelt conversations not only deepened their bond, but also provided Emma with valuable practice in a supportive, familiar setting. Emma's efforts soon began to yield noticeable results. At work, colleagues remarked on her newfound clarity and confidence when she presented in meetings. Even casual interactions with strangers on the street or at the local diner became more fluid and natural. Her English was no longer a subject of study. It had become an integral part of her identity. Each new word learned, each conversation engaged in, and each recording reviewed had contributed to a remarkable transformation. What once seemed like an insurmountable challenge had turned into a series of enjoyable, manageable steps. One evening, after a particularly inspiring meetup with her English Connect friends, Emma sat at a corner table in a quiet cafe in downtown Manhattan. As she sipped her latte and listened to the gentle hum of conversations around her, she reflected on her journey. She thought back to the days when speaking English felt like scaling a steep mountain, where every conversation was a struggle and every word a battle. Now, it was as if the language flowed through her like a familiar song, sometimes soft, sometimes upbeat, but always present. Her mind wandered to the countless small victories along the way, the times she successfully explained complex ideas without hesitation, the moments when she understood intricate jokes, and the instances when her writing captured the depth of her emotions. Emma recognized that every step of her journey was not just about learning English. It was about learning to express herself, to connect with others, and to embrace a world of opportunities that language had unlocked for her. As the weeks turned into months, Emma's progress became a beacon of inspiration for others. Friends from her neighborhood began to notice her enthusiasm and dedication, and some even approached her for advice. In these moments, Emma realized that her journey was not only transforming her life, but also impacting those around her. She started a small blog where she detailed her daily habits, shared practical tips, and encouraged others to embark on their own language learning adventures. Her writings were candid and heartfelt, filled with anecdotes of her early struggles, humorous mishaps, and ultimate triumphs. Through her blog, Emma built a community of learners who celebrated each other's progress and supported one another through challenges. Beyond the structured routines, Emma embraced the unexpected opportunities that life presented. One crisp autumn day, while visiting a local art gallery in Brooklyn, she struck up a conversation with a fellow art enthusiast named Lucas. Their discussion, initially about the intricate details of a painting, soon meandered into broader topics: philosophy, literature, and even travel. Emma found that her improved fluency allowed her to express complex ideas and connect deeply with someone from a completely different background. These serendipitous conversations were a testament to how far she had come, reinforcing the idea that language is not just a tool for communication, but a bridge that unites people from all walks of life. Emma's transformation was gradual yet profound. Every day was a lesson in patience and persistence. She learned that fluency was not achieved overnight, but through repeated exposure, deliberate practice, and the willingness to embrace imperfection. Each day brought new challenges, sometimes a difficult word, sometimes a tricky pronunciation, sometimes a misunderstanding in a conversation. But each challenge was met with the same determination: to learn, to improve, and to never give up. One memorable incident occurred during a community event in a park near her neighborhood. Emma had volunteered to help organize a local charity run. In the midst of the excitement, she found herself coordinating with volunteers from different parts of the United States. Though initially overwhelmed by the rapid-fire exchanges of ideas and instructions in English, she remembered her daily habits. She took a deep breath, listened carefully, and slowly clarified her thoughts. Her calm and composed communication not only helped the event run smoothly, but also earned her genuine compliments from both volunteers and organizers. In that moment, Emma felt a surge of pride. Her persistence had transformed a moment of potential anxiety into one of empowerment and achievement. By integrating English into every facet of her daily life, Emma's story became a mosaic of small, intentional actions that, together, built a life of confidence and eloquence. Her journey serves as a reminder that the path to fluency is not defined by grand gestures or isolated study sessions, but by the consistent, everyday habits that gradually change our perceptions and abilities. Whether it's narrating daily routines, engaging in lively conversations, or reflecting on personal progress, every moment spent with the language is a step forward. For those on a similar journey, Emma's experiences offer a blueprint for success. Start small, stay consistent, and embrace every opportunity to practice. The language might be challenging at times, But with determination and daily effort, it becomes a trusted companion, a tool for self expression and connection that opens doors to endless possibilities. As Emma Carter continues to live her life immersed in English, her journey reminds us all that learning a language is not just about grammar rules or vocabulary lists. It's about weaving the language into the fabric of everyday life. It's about transforming routine activities into moments of discovery and using every interaction as a chance to learn, grow, and connect. With passion, perseverance, and a willingness to embrace mistakes as stepping stones, anyone can transform their language skills and, in doing so, transform their life. The story of Emma is not just a tale of language learning, it is a celebration of the human spirit and the power of daily habits. It invites us to reflect on our own routines and consider how we can integrate learning into every aspect of our lives. In a world where communication is key, the journey to fluency is a journey to self-discovery and endless connection. And so, Emma's story continues, one day at a time, inspiring countless others to take that first step and keep going, no matter how small the stride may seem. Every habit, every word spoken, every page read, and every thought formed in English is a building block toward a future where language is not a barrier, but a bridge, connecting ideas, cultures, and hearts. Through her unwavering commitment, Emma Carter has shown that the journey to mastering English is a continuous adventure, filled with learning, laughter, and the joy of discovery. And for anyone ready to embark on their own language learning adventure, her story stands as a beacon of hope and a reminder that with everyday effort, remarkable transformation is possible. Emma's journey didn't stop with those initial habits. As the days turned into weeks, she began to notice subtle yet powerful changes in how she approached every conversation, every book, and even every mundane moment of her life. Every morning, when the sunlight filtered through her New York apartment window, Emma would sit by the window with her favorite cup of coffee and reflect on the small victories of the previous day. She had learned that the transformation wasn't about grand gestures. It was about consistency, curiosity, and a willingness to embrace the language in every facet of her life. Every day, Emma's routine grew richer. In the early days, she had started by simply thinking in English, a habit that slowly began to weave into every thought. Over time, she noticed that she no longer paused to translate ideas from her native language. Instead, thoughts flowed directly in English. This shift, while subtle, gave her a sense of liberation that motivated her to dive even deeper. Whether planning her schedule, making a grocery list, or even describing the beautiful skyline of Manhattan as she walked to work, English had become the language of her inner dialogue. Her habit of speaking out loud, once a deliberate exercise, gradually became a natural part of her daily routine. On her morning jog through Central Park, Emma began to narrate her surroundings. "The birds are singing, and the trees sway gently in the cool breeze," she'd say, her voice carrying softly over the rustling leaves. This constant vocal practice not only honed her pronunciation, but also helped her overcome the lingering shyness that had once held her back in social situations. Even during her weekly language exchange calls, she found that the more she pushed herself to speak, the more resilient she became in overcoming moments of self-doubt. listening became another cornerstone of Emma's progress. She diversified her sources of audio input by exploring a variety of accents and dialects from across the United States. In addition to the well-known podcasts and news channels, Emma started listening to local radio stations and community storytelling sessions. Sometimes, on lazy Sunday afternoons, she'd settle in her cozy living room and listen to audiobooks, narrations of classic novels or modern memoirs that provided not just language input, but also an immersive experience in American culture. This exposure helped her not only in understanding idiomatic expressions and colloquial speech, but also in appreciating the rich tapestry of narratives that English had to offer. Reading, too, evolved into a cherished daily ritual. Emma discovered that every genre held its own lessons. Fiction introduced her to imaginative expressions and creative wordplay, while nonfiction provided her with practical vocabulary and a clear, logical structure. She began to alternate between reading a gripping mystery novel and catching up on daily news from reputable outlets. Every time she encountered a new word or an unfamiliar phrase, she would pause, look it up, and jot it down in her well-worn notebook. This wasn't a task born out of obligation, but rather a treasure hunt. Each new word was a gem that added sparkle to her vocabulary. The practice of writing became a canvas on which Emma painted her thoughts, dreams, and reflections. At night, after the hustle and bustle of New York had quieted down, she would sit at her desk and let her pen flow freely across the pages of her journal. Some nights, her writing was a simple recounting of the day's events. On other nights, it became a creative exploration of her inner world. She experimented with different styles, sometimes drafting reflective essays on the nature of ambition and success, and at other times, crafting short fictional stories inspired by the diverse people she encountered on the city streets. Each sentence she wrote was an opportunity to experiment, to learn, and to grow more confident in her mastery of English. Emma's commitment to having real conversations in English was perhaps the most transformative habit of all. Initially, her interactions were cautious and measured. She started by attending community meetups and language exchange sessions in local cafes where the atmosphere was friendly and welcoming. One memorable afternoon, while sitting at a bustling cafe in downtown Manhattan, she struck up a conversation with a retired teacher who shared stories of his adventures in teaching and learning languages. Their dialogue was peppered with laughter, occasional pauses for thoughtful reflection, and moments where Emma would ask, "Could you explain that phrase a bit more?" These exchanges, though sometimes challenging, enriched her understanding of conversational English and helped her feel a part of a larger community of learners. Beyond organized meetings, Emma began to weave English into her social life in unexpected ways. She joined online forums dedicated to her hobbies, ranging from cooking and photography to urban gardening, and soon discovered that these communities were brimming with native speakers who shared their tips and personal experiences in vibrant detail. Whether it was a thread discussing the best pizza places in Brooklyn or a blog post about the hidden gems of the American Midwest, Emma found that each interaction sharpened her language skills. In these digital spaces, she learned the informal nuances of English, the slang, the humor, and the cultural references that textbooks rarely touched upon. Emma also embraced learning through fun activities that brought joy to her daily routine. Every weekend, she would challenge herself with word puzzles, crosswords, and even apps that gamified language learning. One Saturday afternoon, while solving a particularly tricky crossword, she realized that the process of piecing together clues was not just a test of vocabulary, but also a playful exercise in creative thinking. These activities often led to delightful aha moments, instances when a previously perplexing idiom suddenly clicked, filling her with a sense of accomplishment. Sometimes she even hosted informal game nights at her apartment, inviting friends over for Scrabble and word association games. These gatherings were more than just fun. They were opportunities to experiment with new words in a relaxed, supportive environment. Friends would tease her gently when she misused a term, but they also cheered when she cleverly integrated a new expression into her conversation. In this way, every interaction, every playful banter, became a stepping stone on her journey to mastering English. A significant turning point in Emma's journey came when she realized that true improvement wasn't about perfection, but about progress and the courage to make mistakes. There were times when she would stumble over her words or use an incorrect tense, and rather than retreat into silence, she began to see these moments as valuable learning experiences. Each error was like a small detour on her path, a reminder that language learning was a dynamic, ever-evolving process. She started recording some of her practice sessions, listening back to her conversations, and noting where she could improve. This self-review process, though at times humbling, was instrumental in helping her fine-tune her pronunciation and grammar. In her quest to improve, Emma sought out diverse sources of feedback. She enrolled in a local English workshop where experienced tutors provided personalized advice and constructive criticism. There, she met people from different walks of life: immigrants, students, professionals, all united by the desire to become better communicators in English. The workshop sessions were lively, filled with role-playing exercises, debates, and storytelling activities that pushed everyone out of their comfort zones. Emma cherished these moments, knowing that every bit of feedback was a building block in her language proficiency. Her journey was not without its challenges. There were days when Emma felt frustrated by the slow pace of her progress, or overwhelmed by the sheer volume of new vocabulary. On such days, she reminded herself of why she had started this journey: to express herself confidently, to connect with people from all over the world, and to explore the endless possibilities that fluency in English could unlock. She adopted a mantra: every word learned is a victory, every sentence spoken is a step forward. This simple affirmation helped her stay motivated even during moments of self-doubt. One rainy afternoon, while sitting in a quaint corner of a Brooklyn coffee shop, Emma reflected on the cumulative impact of her daily habits. She recalled the first time she had listened to a native speaker and felt utterly lost, compared to the current day when she could understand nuances in humor and sarcasm during conversations. The contrast was astounding. With every passing day, her confidence grew, not only in her ability to speak English, but also in her overall self-assurance. Emma realized that these habits had given her more than just language skills. They had taught her discipline, resilience, and the beauty of gradual, steady improvement. Emma's journey also took on a social dimension. As her English skills flourished, she found herself becoming more involved in community events and cultural activities. She started volunteering at local libraries, where she read stories to children and organized book clubs for young adults. In these settings, she encountered a mosaic of English accents, from the gentle lilt of a Boston native to the brisk tones of a Midwestern speaker. Each conversation added a new layer to her understanding of the language, reinforcing the idea that English was not a static subject, but a living, breathing medium of human connection. Her growing proficiency even opened unexpected doors in her professional life. Emma's job in a marketing firm required frequent presentations and client meetings, and soon her improved command over English began to shine through. Her colleagues noticed the clarity in her speech and the precision in her written reports. Clients appreciated her articulate explanations and the effortless flow of her ideas. This boost in confidence spilled over into every aspect of her work, leading to new responsibilities and opportunities for growth. It wasn't long before her superiors recognized her dedication and innovative communication skills, inspiring others in the firm to adopt similar practices. Outside of work, Emma's social interactions blossomed as well. She found herself effortlessly engaging in discussions at dinner parties and community gatherings. One evening, during a lively conversation at a mutual friend's celebration, Emma was complimented on her clear and engaging storytelling style. "You have such a natural way with words," someone remarked, and that simple comment became a cherished reminder of how far she had come. It wasn't just about the technical aspects of language anymore. It was about the confidence to express herself, the joy of sharing her thoughts, and the sense of belonging that came from connecting with others. Her journey was also enriched by unexpected encounters. In a chance meeting at a local bookstore, Emma struck up a conversation with a fellow English enthusiast, Michael, who had been learning English for years. They exchanged tips on vocabulary exercises and shared their favorite books and podcasts. Michael introduced her to a few innovative language apps that offered interactive challenges, and together they embarked on mini language projects like writing collaborative short stories. These interactions reinforced the idea that learning English was not an isolated activity, but a shared adventure with fellow travelers from across the United States and beyond. Even when life got busy, Emma found ways to keep her habits alive. On hectic mornings when she had little time, she would listen to an English podcast during her commute on the subway. On lunch breaks, she practiced writing quick journal entries on her phone. And at night, while unwinding with her favorite TV series, she'd switch the subtitles to English and mimic the dialogue, turning a relaxing activity into a subtle exercise in pronunciation and intonation. Every small action added up, forming a mosaic of habits that gradually, almost imperceptibly, transformed her relationship with the language. Emma's personal reflections deepened as her mastery of English grew. She began to see parallels between the process of learning a language and the broader journey of life. There were moments of rapid progress punctuated by periods of stagnation and times when the path forward seemed unclear. Yet, through persistence and a commitment to her daily practices, she learned that every setback was temporary and every stumble was a lesson in disguise. This perspective not only improved her English, but also enriched her outlook on life. She embraced the idea that continuous improvement was the essence of growth, whether in language, relationships, or personal endeavors. Over time, Emma's daily habits evolved to include creative self-expression. She started maintaining a blog where she chronicled her experiences learning English. In her blog posts, she recounted the humorous missteps, the inspiring breakthroughs, and the subtle shifts in her mindset that led her to new levels of fluency. Readers from across the United States and even abroad began to follow her journey, sharing their own stories and tips. The blog became a vibrant community, a space where people celebrated the beauty of language learning, exchanged ideas, and motivated each other to keep striving for improvement. Emma's narrative resonated with many, serving as a testament to the transformative power of small, consistent actions. As seasons changed in New York, so did Emma's routine. With the arrival of spring, she embraced the outdoors even more. Mornings were spent in the city's parks, where she would sit on a bench and engage in quiet self-talk or listen to local street performers whose songs and stories were interwoven with the rhythm of the city. In these moments, Emma realized that English was not confined to the pages of a book or the screen of a computer. It was alive in every conversation, every melody, and every shared smile. This realization further cemented her commitment to making English a living, breathing part of her everyday existence. The journey was long, sometimes winding, and full of unexpected detours, but Emma's passion never waned. Each new word she learned, every conversation she held, and every piece of feedback she received became threads in the rich tapestry of her linguistic journey. In the quiet moments of reflection, she would often think back to the early days when speaking out loud felt awkward and listening to native speakers was overwhelming. Now, with each passing day, her mind danced with the sounds and rhythms of English, a language that had once been a challenge and was now a source of endless inspiration and joy. Looking ahead, Emma envisioned even greater mastery over her language skills. She planned to explore advanced literature, join more professional workshops, and perhaps even mentor others who were just starting out on their own journeys. The vision of herself as a confident, articulate communicator was no longer a distant dream, but a reality steadily being built with every habit, every practice, and every moment dedicated to learning. In the heart of New York, among the constant hum of life, Emma Carter's story stood as a vivid reminder of what is possible when determination meets daily effort. Her journey, rich with small transformative habits, demonstrated that learning English was not about memorizing rules or reciting vocabulary lists. It was about embracing the language in every breath, every thought, and every word spoken. It was about turning the ordinary into extraordinary through the power of consistent practice and the joy of discovery. As Emma continued to live her life in English, she became more than just a student of language. She became an ambassador of the idea that everyday habits can lead to remarkable change. And while her journey was uniquely hers, it echoed the experiences of countless others who dared to make a commitment to improvement, one day at a time. Whether you are just beginning to learn English or are seeking to polish your skills, Emma's story offers a blueprint for success. Integrate the language into your daily life. Celebrate each small victory and never be afraid to let your mistakes guide you toward better understanding. Her journey teaches us that the path to fluency is paved with persistence, curiosity, and a deep appreciation for the beauty of learning. It is a testament to the fact that with every sunrise, there is a new opportunity to speak, listen, read, and write in English, a chance to connect with the world and to share your unique voice in a language that is as vast and diverse as life itself. In every moment of her day, from the hum of the subway to the quiet solitude of her nighttime reflections, Emma's commitment to her habits transformed her.